Welcome back to the Arbiters Seeking podcast.
The only podcast dedicated to seeking authority on topics and thinking outside the norm.
Oh yeah, and today is going to be quite the vulnerable one. We've been digging deep into our deepest desires and thoughts and flaws, and we're trying to extract some of the truth about ourselves that we might be unconsciously just kind of putting aside and not really digging deep enough into some of the behaviors that we automatically do and maybe cause a detriment to our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the term that you just used for it? Self-reflection, or no? It was what did you say it was? Do you remember?
A deep. I don't remember.
No. It was.
I say a lot of things.
Yeah, you do.
And you see, I don't even know what I say a lot of the time.
Perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our self-perception of.
Self-perception.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting about this topic is when Grayson approached me with his own revelation about this, I too had been having the same revelation. I just hadn't verbalized it to him. So it's kind of interesting that we both converged our paths on this. But do you want to explain a little bit about the revelation itself?
Mm-hmm. So after the last podcast we filmed, we had some candid discussion about assumptions that we hold about things. We got into Catholicism and maybe some misconceptions we have, because I've been looking into that, trying to challenge my own assumptions of things. And then it took like a pretty, I would say, dark turn into not just the knowledge I know that I have misconceptions of, but what about myself and the actions that I take and the words that I use do I not understand, I'm wrong about? Like, I'll give just a quick story of like one of the more notable things that I noticed and overanalyzed just for the purpose of displaying the dilemma that I've been going through. So I work at FedEx at nights, and the last shift that I was on before I kind of externalized this was I was just pushing boxes down chutes, and there was nobody else on the floor except for the people putting the boxes into the bins. And I was just throwing these boxes like really hard.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking 50 yards across this thing back into the chute. I was hitting it perfectly. I was feeling strong. I was listening to a podcast, and I was just like, I'm not going to go out of my way, walk over here and push it gently down the chute. I'm just going to chuck it across the room,
Is that because you're supposed to, or just you were feeling,
there was never any talk about,
not throwing them?
Yeah, because, sometimes you have to when you get really busy.
Right,
throw them a little bit.
Yeah,
but I was going far beyond what is like even acceptable. Even in my mind, I was feeling some conviction about it.
Like you may have damaged some stuff, allegedly?
Yes.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of FedEx is, ship the items safely.
Everything arrives undamaged. Yeah.
And so I was throwing these things. I was feeling good. I was buying into that fleshly desire to just stinking throw stuff, just having fun. But then there was one particular moment where I threw this box really hard, and I felt something inside me. I just felt something inside me. And before I even lifted my head up to look at the person below me who was putting these boxes away, I took my headphone out, and I knew before I even lifted my head up that she was going to say something about it. And I can't tell you, I don't know what inside a person gives them that revelation that someone's going to say something about what they just did. But for some reason I got that. And before I even lifted up and looked at the person, I took my headphone out, and she said, "Please don't throw the boxes," in a nice way. And she was a really sweet woman. And I was like, yes, sorry. But like before I even contemplated it, I knew I was going to get, pushback for it. And I guess the biggest dilemma that I've been finding is that I have a hard time taking responsibility for things And what I do is I retell the story in a way that makes me seem like the person who's a victim, even when I'm completely at fault. And I tried my best to tell that story in the most truthful way. And I think I did, but I'm not sure that I did.
Right.
And so even after that, my head went into, oh, they never told me I couldn't throw the boxes, or she's just being hypocritical or something like that. But nothing really took, because she was a sweet woman and she said it in a nice way, and I definitely did something that was wrong. And so I didn't give any pushback for it. Yes.
So you were kind of armed with that like fight or flight, but like erring towards fight kind of mentality. Like if she says something, I'm going to have something to retaliate back with. Yeah,
but that time it didn't grab. But going into my other story, which happened actually before I was throwing the boxes, I did completely fall off the rails and was still wrong. So there was a jam up on the other end where there were a bunch of boxes that were jammed up. And I have 2 headphones in at the time, which again, was never told. This time I was never told I couldn't have 2 headphones in.
Right.
I'm totally immersed in a podcast. I'm just pushing my boxes down chutes. I don't want people to bother me. I get through like 5 hours of podcasts every night. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I hear yelling. He's like, hey, you got jam, you know? Maybe he said it before and I didn't hear, or maybe that was the first time I was hearing it, but I went straight over it and cleared the jam. And then the moment I cleared the jam, I couldn't hear him speaking to his friend that he was like looking at, but I saw him like point to my ears, and I could tell that what he was saying was kind of aggressive. So in that moment, I assumed completely that he had a problem with me wearing 2 headphones and not listening and not being attentive to the floor.
Right.
And that he had a problem with that. And immediately I got pissed, and I was like, you know what? No one told me that I couldn't wear 2 headphones. And the next time, if someone from management comes up to me, I'm going to say, I wasn't told that I couldn't wear 2 headphones, but, you know, and if they had said, oh, just leave 1 in, don't have 2 in so you can pay attention, I would have obliged. But again, like, and I was like angry that this person would talk behind my back without even being sure that that's what happened.
Yeah.
I assumed all the situation, all the reactions that I would have, and just everything was so analyzed to the nines that I was not at fault, and that he was at fault for talking behind my back, and that I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to feel good about myself knowing that in every situation there is a possibility that I'll fall back on my flesh and deny that I was at fault for something. And I think that happens a lot more often than I even catch consciously.
Right. Oh, I'm definitely guilty of the same thing. I work at Kroger, and I almost all the time, I do the online orders, so I'm not on the floor. And the Kroger that I work at has very narrow aisles, and I'm almost always in people's way. And I hate to like think of it that way, because I always see them in my way, but I'm an extension of the company, so I'm in their way. And that not only adds a level of stress, but it adds a degree of hostility for me, because people asking me a question, even though that's my job, it takes away from my goal at the moment, which is to pick as quickly as I possibly can with the highest amount of accuracy. And you know, if a customer does ask me a question, they're usually nice about it. But I always, before they even ask me, am just expecting them to be like, you lowly employee, where is this? Yeah. You know, it's kind of sad that like nowadays we find ourselves in situations where we're no longer on the human level. Yes. You know? And I think, you know, for you and I, the overanalyzing stuff, that's a product of removing the human element of things. Not everything is let's analyze this objectively. Like, it sounds crazy. Unfortunately, because I know we're both so logical, unfortunately, there's a lot of subjectivity, if that's a word,
There's a word.
in situations. So I'm actually going to read back some of our text conversation when we talked about this, because I thought it was really insightful.
And the podcast in particular that I was listening to at the time gave me the exact remedy, or a certain remedy to what I had been feeling. Because frankly, not using this as an excuse, but it is true that I had been really tired because I'd been traveling the day before and I hadn't had much sleep over the past couple days. And I was hungry. I hadn't eaten anything but like a small snack that day. And so I wasn't in a very objective place to determine reality at that moment. And so I was falling in and out of, having empathy for people and just, getting my job done.
So this is the conversation that spurred this conversation we're having now. Grayson says, I also think a complete video could be devoted to a subject I have been doing, overanalyzing a minute event in your life. Like telling a story and both analyzing it and figuring out what autonomous behaviors are associated for the slip up and what meaning we could derive from it. Challenging assumptions you don't even realize you hold. I said, dude, it's crazy that you say that because I've been overanalyzing everything I've been doing and saying recently. You said, me too. I said, like every feeling I have towards something could one day be held as a delusion in my memory.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty important. I mean, that definitely spurred a lot of the thought process I had when we had that text conversation. There's, like for instance, like this situation that you're now recalling, there's a lot that you can probably think about how you felt in that situation. And now that you're out of that situation, think about it in a completely different way.
And a year from now, it's a completely different revelation too.
Yeah.
At what point are we objective about what happened?
It's certainly not in the moment, it seems.
No. In the moment is the least reliable indicator of like when you're actually acting according to what you profess is who you are.
Yeah.
Like, who am I really? Am I my actions? Am I my words? Am I my thoughts?
Yeah. Is it possible to hone that as a skill? Do you think? To be able to slow down a present situation and view it in the same way you would even the next day?
I think so, because we always, go back to the Bible and say, be slow to anger.
Right.
I think that has a lot to do with the situation that I just told. If I had been slow and been like, is it unreasonable completely to assume that he was talking about something? Or am I just being delusional and tired right now?
Right.
Does it even matter that he would talk behind my back? Because after all, it's warranted a little bit because I was wearing the headphones anyway.
Yeah. It's hard to perceive ourselves. When I was in middle school, I liked to yo-yo, Like, I think that's cringy now, but at the time I was like, man, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's, thoughts about a girl. You might be obsessing over a girl now, but in a year you might be like, I was insane.
Yeah.
Like something was wrong with me for to have those feelings.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it's completely, you're absorbed.
And you think that you are objectively rational about every thought that you have about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes even you'll get, conviction about it, that you're doing something wrong, and you'll be like, then you'll tell yourself, no.
Yeah.
That's the irrational side. The irrational side is actually the rational side pushing back on what you're conceiving as a rational idea.
It's a lot easier to be on your own team.
Yeah. Even when I was writing, so I wrote down a transcript of these stories, which we will be putting on the Discord. Go ahead and click the link there. And I had to rewrite them a couple times because I had lied.
To yourself.
I lied to myself about the retelling of the story and made it to where I was the victim.
Did you lie to yourself or because you knew it was going to be read by other people? That's another slippery slope. You got to be able to not... It's so difficult. It's nearly impossible to remove the element of what would other people think. Mm-hmm. You know, we're social creatures. We're humans. It's extremely difficult to remove that element.
And I think that we can't actually see what people think. I don't think that it's a reliable metric to be like, if I tell the story this way, people are going to think this. Yeah. If I tell the truth, people are going to think this. Mm-hmm. I think that if we tell the truth in every endeavor that we possibly can, then that will warrant the response that is natural and holy and what should come of it.
Yeah.
But it is much harder a task to actually do that than just say it.
It's kind of like if you get, let's say, you know, a dramatic event happens within your group of friends or something. If you listen to either side of the story from each person and their perspective, and then of the other side as well, they're completely different every time. Mm-hmm. You know?
Every time they're retelling it.
There is an element of delusion involved between either side because everyone wants to see themselves as the hero.
Mm-hmm. And the victim.
Yes. That's a big one as well, victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Woe is me.
Yeah.
I have been oppressed. Mm-hmm. You know?
That's a big dilemma I'm trying to fix in myself is I feel like a man should take on the responsibility even when sometimes it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Because that's what I believe is the best way to go about life is to be truthful, to approach morality in the most wholesome, truthful sense that one possibly can, and to do good. And this is the quote I said, I think. A man's not good if he's only good when he's good. And I think that...
Say that again real quick, man. That's so good.
Man's not good when he's only good when he's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that situation I found myself in when I was tired and hungry and I was, you know, slipping in and out of the reality of the situations was when I wasn't good.
Right.
And every time that I look back on when I made a mistake or something, reflection of what happened, I wasn't good, and I acted irrationally because I wasn't good. And those are the biggest regrets I have. When I made slip-ups and when I said the wrong thing is when I wasn't in a good space, when I wasn't in a calm, slow to anger space. And taking in what I'm hearing with open ears to the situation at hand.
Right.
And so it's hard to train yourself to be good in situations when you're not good.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to not slip up when the conditions are perfect.
Yeah, when I'm happy and I feel like the world's not against me and that people love me and I'm respected, it's very easy to produce good in the world. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes, as is the case with life, you're not going to be good, you're not going to have perfect circumstances, and you're going to take out that on the world, even when it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's honestly what has spurred a lot of, you know, evil figureheads in the world. Mm-hmm. Is, you know, a series of events, possibly even minuscule. They're probably living in their delusion, you know? But they didn't have that self-reflection enough to not take action on a wide scale revenge tour, essentially.
Yeah. And I don't think also that it's good for someone to always overanalyze everything like this.
Yeah.
I know that for me it has been the most dreadful, terrible experience to be overanalyzing every situation. Like, we are very Christian. God's got it. You know, even if you make a mistake, God will forgive you of that.
Yes.
And we need to just, you know, one day at a time pursue what is good and do our best to act morally even in situations when we're not good.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a dreadful experience. And it's spurred a lot of... I tend to not just overanalyze things, but overplan things and over checkpoint things. Like I may approach a goal that is like more daunting than any mortal should ever approach in a given time span. You know, I'll be like, so I want to run a marathon and I want to plan out my diet model for every single day that I'll be doing this and the exact amount of mileage that I'm going to put on.
Right.
And the exact running shoes I'll be wearing and the exact clothing I'll be wearing and the exact hydration plan that I'll be taking, which when you're approaching a goal can be a good thing, but to a certain point, you can't plan out everything. It's got to go to God. And especially career-wise and relationship-wise, I would say even more relationship-wise, nothing's going to go according to plan, and you're not a failure if you don't reach those checkpoints at the time that you set.
I mean, there's no success without failure.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially like the relationship one is very eye-opening and very hard because you cannot control what anyone else does.
Yeah.
No matter what manipulation power you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you set a point like, I'm going to get married when I'm 23.
That's not going to happen. Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Or it might, but it will end unhappily.
Yes. You know? It's not a good thing to know when you're going to get this person to act this way. Because then that just sets you up to, I have to manipulate this person to do that.
Which is not good.
Which is definitely not good.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah?
Do you think, because, you know, this conversation, it's kind of on the extreme side of like the analytical sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's better to be overanalyzing or underanalyzing things and just going into things blind and not really thinking much about anything?
I think it's a phasic thing. When you're running into a lot of trouble in your life and you're not getting to where you want to go, I think you need to analyze, you know, what's holding you back.
Right.
But when everything is okay, I don't know.
Because at the end of the day, you're still going to look back and say, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
I was just delusional.
I don't think looking in the past for anything other than a remedy for the future is a good idea.
Well, okay, but let me ask you this. Why do we overanalyze then, if not for the past? If that's not a direct source for the overanalyzation.
Well, I'll take a present example, I guess. So I've been telling a lot of people, and I think I've determined for myself objectively that I want to pursue a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm running into a lot of problems with discipline. And so what I'm analyzing, I guess, in the past is what has held me back from being disciplined and taking responsibility for that lack of discipline. And I think it's a bigger issue than just simply, oh, I haven't had the energy to go to the gym lately. And that, for me, the mark of me being a disciplined person in different phases of life is if I was working out or not, or like taking cold showers in the morning. Yeah. Because there were times when I felt like on top of the world, when I woke up, didn't touch my phone, took a cold shower, ran a couple miles, got to school, killed it, absolutely did great that semester. And then there are times when I quit working out, I quit caring about my diet, and I quit going to social occasions, and I was just failing at every single thing. That's a phase I'm in right now, frankly. And I don't know, and I still haven't determined what specific factor is involved with me falling in and out of being disciplined or not. But I'm analyzing something to maybe remedy it. I don't know.
There are seasons.
Yeah.
You can only maintain a streak so long when it's sheer willpower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it was not by choice, like we didn't have running water,
Mm-hmm.
well, then you'd have to go bathe in a lake somewhere, which is going to be cold regardless. We don't have to travel very far to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
which if it was the opposite, you'd have to run a couple miles no matter what. And, you know, the diet thing, we have such a plethora, variety diet available at our disposal. It's inevitable that you're going to make good and bad choices in your diet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you cannot expect from yourself that which would always be necessary if an environment required it.
Yeah.
You know, our environment does not require it. So, you know.
We're in a state that if you didn't do anything for the rest of your life, you would still be fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I feel like, you know, just reveling in, you know, should I try to be a remarkable person? Should I try to be a moral person? Should I pursue goals even without the need for them?
Mm.
I mean, that's the exact dilemma that will lead into probably our next episode, which is, you know, what has industry actually done to people psychologically for the long term? It's provided them this safety net for, you know, you don't have to be remarkable anymore because you're going to be fine anyways.
Mediocrity is encouraged.
Yeah.
Whether that's intentional or not, it is.
And so I think the biggest problem plaguing me and others is, you know, how much effort is actually required to achieve the goals that you want.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to achieve goals that are greater than what mediocrity would provide me.
Yeah.
But it's really hard not to just sit and watch TV or something knowing that I'm going to get a meal somewhere and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be fit enough to live like I'm not obese.
Mm-hmm.
So that's better than that.
Yeah.
Comparison and yeah. These are really hard revelations to have because I'm a person who likes everything going according to plan.
Yeah, of course.
And I make plans like I've said, that will help me reach this goal, that will help me reach this next goal, that will lead to me having this perfect life.
Right.
When at no point after achieving goals, or even if I got to that finish line, will I ever be satisfied with it?
Mm-hmm.
There's no end point. And there was a podcast I recently listened to that was put on by Sam Harris. That we need to get out of our mind that there is ever an end point to any of the things that we do. Mm-hmm. And we need to get out of this mindset, this efficiency mindset. I need to be doing everything that I possibly can at all moments of the time, because the choices we have the amount of choice we have to do things, like I can go bowling tonight, I can go golfing this evening, I can do all this and that. We have so many choices that we are always missing out.
Right.
Always. Mm-hmm. But is it okay that I didn't do what I set out to do today? Well, maybe, if it was according to your goal.
Right.
But also, you know, if I didn't golf and I bowled instead and I didn't have the greatest time ever, it's not because I chose to bowl over because I chose to golf. It's just because that's just what it is. Mm. You're not missing out on things because you're not doing every single thing that you set out to do.
Right.
And there's no end goal anyways, other than maybe the goal that you have. But again, that goal will never satisfy you.
Right. Well, we hope this episode was thought-provoking, and hope you enjoyed us overanalyzing our overanalyzation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for watching.